Cambridge Central Mosque, The Sacred Reimagined, is more than a book. It's an immersive look at one of the most iconic and award-winning buildings of our time. Written by Michael Glover, this beautifully designed book reveals the mosque's story through rich interviews with key community voices, stunning photography, and captivating details of its groundbreaking architecture. Celebrate a vision that redefines a British mosque for the 21st century. Proceeds from the book go towards helping our important work. Order your copy now.
It's a great pleasure for me to be standing here today at the culmination of the project, which I first became aware of in about 2014, when Ruth, my wife, and I went down to Julia and David's house, and she told me about the project that she was newly engaged in to try and create a new mosque in Cambridge, which would use principally wood and would be very sensitive to environmental needs. And at that point in my writing life, I had written many books, but I had never written a book about a building. I had always written generally about literature. I had often, after that, written about poetry, because I am a poet as well, and I had written about art. And when I wrote about art, I did so because I wanted to try and describe the way in which a painting worked. And I used to go into art galleries, and I used to say to myself, if I were to be asked to write about this painting by an editor, which 5 adjectives would I use to describe it? Well, that morning in London, we went to David and Julia's house for breakfast. She told me about this new project that we were being engaged in, about the creation of the new mosque, the fact that it was going to be radically different in its approach to mosque making, and in fact that there was no long history of mosque making in the UK, as you're aware of. The Woking Mosque was the first mosque of its kind. Just about this same time, I was travelling quite a lot back to my hometown of Sheffield to research a book about a new guidebook of Sheffield. And I went along then to mosque in Wolsey Road in Sheffield. And I had been told, and I had read in the local paper, that this was a mosque where everyone was welcome, understandably, and I should go and look at it. And I went along there. And what I thought about that mosque was something troubling. The windows were made with reinforced glass. The people who invited me there, who welcomed me, they were indeed very welcoming, but there was also a certain guardedness about their approach to my presence there. And I felt saddened by that, and I thought, is there something wrong with the prototype of this mosque, which so much overshadows the terraced housing of Healy in Sheffield? Is it making not so much too bold a statement as a statement which has not been ready quite sufficiently to accommodate itself to the local? What exactly were the problems to do with this mosque? Because, as I said, everyone was very welcoming there, but it felt also as if it could have been improved upon. And so I come to the story of this mosque, which is an extraordinary endeavour. And I want to thank Tim in particular for everything he's done for the project. I mean, he has been the most extraordinary advocate for the mosque, but also a great diplomat on its behalf. And his presence has made a huge difference. I suppose the fittingness of this location reminds me of an image that's in the book. It shows an aerial plan of King's College Chapel as if lifted by the hand of God and placed over this site, which also, of course, served as a lime works, a warehouse, and much else. Site and chapel make for a near perfect fit. And I hope that the book itself, that when you read it and absorb it, that you will feel that it somehow fits your understanding and appreciation and enjoyment of the mosque itself. What I want to do principally this evening is to be quite personal about what I say about the mosque. I want to praise 3 people that I met here when I was doing a lot of the research a couple of years ago. It was May and it was early spring, and those three people are all local to this place. They worship here. They gave me unstintingly of their time when I was researching the book a couple of years ago. They have contributed to it immeasurably. If a book consists of pictures and conversations, as Alice in Wonderland brazenly said to Humpty Dumpty in around the 1860s, these three, through their conversations, gave me vital grounding material, snippets of wisdom, insight, and information, without which my book of the Mosque would have been all the poorer. Because this book is not only a technical description of a magnificent building written for architects and other professionals, a thoroughgoing examinations of the ideas and principles which brought into being, explaining how it was made, by whom and when, and with what kinds of materials. It is also very much a human document, a book about how this sacred institution is being occupied, utilized, enjoyed, and appreciated now. Generally speaking, when I look at guidebooks of Christian churches, I find myself examining architectural details which are doubtless wondrous and much worthy of attention. But these details mostly speak of the past. Very few guidebooks to the Christian churches that I own show them very much alive with human presences. Humans are a bit of an irrelevance in those guidebooks. All the marvelousness is confined to extended praise of the making and the near miraculous survival of the buildings themselves. We often seem to be looking through empty air to almost nothing but brick and glass and stone. My book about Cambridge Central Mosque tries to be significantly different in its approach. It also tells the human story of the day-to-day life of the mosque through conversations and photographs. It shows the people at worship, getting married, people enjoying themselves and appreciating each other's company. It is very much about how the sacred and the personal interpenetrate. So of these three people I talk about, the first person to whom I spoke at any length one morning in May a couple of years ago when I came up here to do some research was my volunteer guide, Isan, who is probably better known to you as the blogger Sir Cam, because he has been knighted by the local river for his services to the greater community. Isan is a marvellous photographer, and many of his photographs of the mosque are in this book. That morning in May, he led me through the mosque from the gardens at the front to the prayer hall at the back, informing me, guiding me, giving me precious insights into the building itself and how it was being used and received. Isan also had a wonderful sense of humour, which is one of life's greatest gifts, I think. He told me, laughing, that he was Punjabi by descent and that he could fight me if I had the appetite. I want you to all know that I'm still in hard training for that possibility. After all, this is a man who grew up in Huddersfield and went on to study earth sciences at Darwin College. Never underestimate such a creature. After Isan, I spent a considerable amount of time walking through the gardens with Helen Sears, your regular gardener who was late of the Cambridge Botanic Garden. She talked to me with great warmth, passion about plantings, nature's diurnal round, plant lore, and even of her hopes and aspirations for the thin, horseshoe-shaped ribbon of garden which extends around the outer perimeter of the building. So could it be developed into something for the children? And more generally, how what she was doing with here now related to Islamic tradition, and of how the garden itself might well serve as a teaching aid for future generations of young Muslims. And then at about 4:30 in the afternoon, when she had finished her work at Cambridge University Press, I had a conversation in the cafe with Shahida Rahman, novelist and trustee of this mosque and owner of her own charity. Shahida spoke, who had been born, in fact, close to where this mosque would become, spoke with such love and such eagerness of her commitment to this building and of all that it means to her and meant to her. I remember her saying, the trees, the trees, the trees, 3 times over. It was almost an incantation. She was, of course, referring to the symbolic processional of trees in the prayer hall. That was the heart of the matter. That was for her, that spot, her grounding centre. Three wonderful people, all enriched by the mosque and enriching it by their presences here. And one final thought. I grew up in the city of Sheffield, which will be known forevermore as the City of Steel. This was where the flanks of battleships were forged at the Don Valley Works in the teens of the 20th century. When I look at a knife, I always reflect upon the fact that steel, an alloy made by man, is a cold, unbending, fearsome, martial metal. And in that it differs fundamentally from wood, the primary material of this building. Even in the coldest of cold weather, wood, the most natural of materials, is accommodating and welcoming, and never really cold to sit on. It is welcoming to outsider and insider alike. In fact, it was the material from which my friends, the late David Marks, and his wife Julia Barfield, together with their extraordinary team of architects, would come to fashion Cambridge Central Mosque. Thank you.